Sometimes I really have no idea how I'm going to start this thing, and this is one of those times. So, hi, welcome to Acceptable Madness, the podcast about depression. So today, we're going to look at rejection, which is a topic that's been on my mind consistently for every day for the past 6 months. And the reason that it's been so relevant for me recently is so the job that I got outside of college that I started back in July is a sales job. And I don't know if anybody out there has any experience with sales, but I don't know if you know this, but a lot of what that job is just kind of walking up and asking people to buy a product that they may or may not have any interest in the first place. And so, walking away from a lot of rejection that comes from that and dealing with, that constant picking yourself up and running back out there to do it all again is not the most appealing feeling in the world. And I'm definitely, one thing I will say is I'm definitely on the introverted side of the spectrum. That's why I'm talking to a mic as opposed to a person right now. So it's really hard to, build up the courage and run out there and talk to someone and try to sell them a product that they may have no interest in, and then deal with the rejection from it. And so that's been one really big thing that's bothering me. But there's actually been something else that means a bit more to me, that I'm a bit more passionate about than my day job. And I don't even hate my day job. It's just that I like a lot of the passion projects that I've started more than that. So like my writing, this podcast, this is episode 4. Woo! I didn't know if I'd get this far because I really don't know if it's connecting with anybody. I don't know if it's out there at all, really, besides putting it on my blog of the same name. So I don't know if anybody's listening to it, but that's kind of comforting in a way because it means that I can come on here, not worry about anything that I'm saying, and just kind of try to make some sort of compelling podcast and hope that it does find someone. But what I'm saying is, along with having to deal with the rejection at work, with something that, it's my livelihood, so it is something that matters. But more than that, I've actually been applying to a bunch of different agents for the book that I've written. I finished it back in March, and it took me a long time to go through the editing process. But so right now I've been going through and trying to figure out what kind of agents match with the particular book that I have. But it's weird because, so from the perspective that I'm at right now, is I've actually written 2 books. The first one is complete and utter dog shit. The story is pretty good, and I actually think that in the future I will rewrite the book, and I won't go into any details, but I hope to rewrite it and maybe try to get it published again in the future. But the one that I'm working on right now is a book that I feel like the idea is creative. The writing is very literal and straightforward, and I personally think it's a pretty good product, but I'm worried that it won't connect with people, and it especially an agent looking for the next profound and amazing thing that's going to come their way. So I've been applying for agents, and so far I've applied to only about 30 over the past month or so, because again, it took a lot of time to edit it. So going from March and trying to get it into like a nice and final draft, I think I edited it 3 times or something. But now I'm at the point where I'm done editing and I'm just sending it out to people and hoping that someone likes the idea. And I've sent it to 30 people, and a lot of agents for, a traditional publishing, they won't give any feedback, and a lot of them won't even reply to an email if they're not interested in what you're doing. So it's pretty hard to gauge how many rejections I really have. But what I do have is I have 6 different rejection emails from different agents, and some of them have felt better than others, and some of them just have no warmth behind them. So the rejections range in the meaningfulness. I don't know. But And it's the same with sales too. I've met with a lot of people that the guy that worked before me seems to have not been the best of salespeople in terms of actually like maintaining a relationship with someone. So he would sell them the product, and then he would just never come back and talk to that person, or he wouldn't make sure that the product was really working. So I've been trying to maintain and rebuild a lot of the relationships that he left underdeveloped or undeveloped for a really long time. And so at work, I have to deal with a lot of people that are unhappy with the product and service that we've offered. And then I come home and I apply to agents and kind of get a similar response. But I actually wanted to focus on 2 rejection letters that I've gotten from people in the past week for my book. And just to kind of give insight into how they're actually, coming across and how they feel and stuff like that. So I won't give any names because there's really no reason to do that. There's no importance to it. It's more of the message behind it, not the person behind it. So, but I got this, I got a rejection letter from one woman. I had to send in a query letter. I had to send in the first 10,000 words of my manuscript. And then I also had to send in a synopsis of my work. And so getting all that stuff together it takes a little bit of time, but once you get into it, the process isn't too hard. But she rejected me, which is no surprise. But the way that she did it was a really polite way, and I actually really respected the way that she went about it, because she said, "Dear Scott, thank you so much for writing me. Unfortunately, this project is not a fit for my list at this time, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to consider it. Please remember that this is a highly subjective business, and another agent might feel differently. I wish you the very best of luck in finding representation, and thank you again for thinking of me. Sincerely, insert name here." And I got that, and I actually got it a whole 20 minutes ago, and I read it, and it didn't sting. It actually felt pretty good, because every rejection that I get is a small victory, because it means that I'm putting myself out there. And that's already hard enough as is, but the fact that someone will respond and, there's a clear indication that they're actually reading my work and at least giving it the time of day is something that it kind of legitimizes the work that I've been trying to do for so long. So that feels pretty good. But the rejection, it's just part of it. You'll listen to interviews of anybody that becomes successful or tries to become successful in their own way, and they have so many rejections and so many failed attempts at whatever they're doing. Whether you look at Stephen King or the generic Thomas Edison or anybody else, you're going to hear about a lot of rejections. And now I'm not comparing myself to any of those people because I'm not that much of a narcissist, but it is a good way to gauge if you're doing the right thing. Every rejection letter that I get, I feel like I'm closer to the real thing, to actually getting where I want to be, because I'm at least doing it. And even if no one likes the book that I have right now, I'll put it out as an ebook, and hopefully someone will find it and find some fun and actually enjoy reading it. But if not, that's fine too. And then I'll write something new and try it all again. It's just, it's actually weird. The fact that I have a level of persistence with trying to get this book out there and trying to give it to as many agents that are appropriately fit for it. I'm not just sending it to everybody. I'm sending it to people that I genuinely think would represent the work very well. I know that the book that I've written is good, but I know that the next thing that I write will be significantly better. And the reason for that is just that the person that wrote my last book had written one book before. And now the person that I am right now has written 2 books, and that's just experience. And I've read more books, and I've been doing more research on actual grammar, and I'm trying to become a bit more well-rounded as a writer and all of that stuff. So I know that I could write a better book. So that's actually a constant thought that I have, is if I stop working on this book right now and I stop applying to agents and I just instead write an entirely new book, and then I go through the editing process for that, and then I throw that out at a bunch of agents, then the book that I make then will arguably be better than the book that I have right now, just because I have more experience and I can put a bit more time behind it, or a bit more experience whenever I'm actually starting and finishing it. So it could potentially be a much better book. But if I have that thought process, then I will never apply to any agents and I'll never get anything done. I'll never be satisfied with what I'm putting out because I want everything to be perfect, but I know that that's just an unrealistic expectation. So I'm kind of putting out this imperfect piece of work that I have that I still think, again, is good. I still think there might be some people out there that might be interested in it. And I'm hoping that someone feels that same way. And then in the future, if I do or don't get published, no matter the outcome, I'll try it all again with a different type of work and hopefully get a bit more success and traction that way. But it's one thing I will say, not that I really have any grounds to give advice, but if you keep trying to get something to a level of perfection, then you will never get anywhere, because I would rather send my work out to an agent, and they don't often. I've never had an agent that gives their criticism or feedback on my work because they're just very busy people, and I would much rather send an imperfect piece of work that's most of the way done. We'll say it's 95% of the way finished and complete and everything, and see if they think that there's a way that it would reach audiences better, or see if there's a better way to actually advertise it or whatever, but still get it in front of people. I'd rather do that than just keep working for a 100% perfect piece of work, because that'll never happen. There's not a perfect book out there, and if there is, then I would just read that over and over and then try to mimic it as much as possible, but putting my own creative flair in there. And that just sounds like the most exhausting and boring thing in the universe. So I would never want to do that. But I don't know. The only thing you can do is keep trying, and it really starts to wear on you, because I don't know, having people constantly, whether it's in my day job or the passion projects that I'm working on after, just constantly saying no, or that they're not interested, or that it's not a good fit for them. It's really hard not to take it personally. And for the rejection that I read from one agent, that was, to me, a very polite rejection letter. I actually emailed her back and just told her that I appreciated her response and appreciated the fact that she actually took the time to read my work, and that, I wish her all the luck in all of her future projects. And because there's no reason to have any sort of ill feelings towards anybody just because their opinions and viewpoints and appreciation for books or novels or manuscripts or whatever doesn't perfectly line up with what I've written. There's no reason to get uptight or anything about that. But so I didn't take that one personally. But the next one that I'm about to read, I took personally a bit, and it was a hard few days for me. And the reason that it was a bit hard is because of the way that it was worded. So I'll just start it now. Dear Scott, thank you so much for your query. Unfortunately, your manuscript isn't quite the right fit for me at this time. The concept and the voice of the sample pages didn't connect with me as much as I'd hoped. Due to this, I don't believe I'm the right agent to champion your piece. And then there's that other thing where it's like, I know you've put a lot of time and effort into your project, so the publishing industry is very subjective, which is true. But the reason that this one felt a little bit more personal, and again, I don't have anything against this agent. I respect the work that they do, and I do think that if they would have liked my book more, or they would have thought that it connected with them a bit more, then they still could have done a very good job with my work. But the line that got me was, the concept and the voice of the sample pages didn't connect with me as much as I'd hoped. So the reason that line gets me is because I just told you about this fear that I have, or the fact that if I write a new book, it'll likely be better than the one that I have now, but it'll be more time of not trying this book, and then eventually there's, if you keep doing that, you'll never get anywhere. But the reason that line hurt is because it sounds like she liked the idea of the book that I have, but it was not written well enough for her to genuinely consider it. And maybe I'm overthinking it. I have a tendency to do that. And as this podcast progresses, I'm sure that you'll start to hear more and more of the, depressive, manic, bipolar sadistic thoughts that run through my head. I'm just trying to get more comfortable with actually putting myself out there in this podcast. This is so far the one that I've been most. It was the easiest one to start up and just start talking. So I'm getting better at it, but it's still going to take me a little bit more time to actually feel comfortable with everything. So I'm not going to dive into the heavily the really heavy topics yet. I don't want to do that because I don't feel like I'm in a good state of expertise in terms of podcasting or putting myself out there to do that effectively or anything like that. So there's a lot more time. So I won't go into any of those thoughts, but it was just something that I heard and I got that response, and it makes me think about the quality of work that I've put out. It makes me worry that it's not good enough to actually be published, and it might not be. There is an honest chance that I will put my work out to 150 agents, maybe more. I don't know what an appropriate number is, or I don't know how many people I'm gonna have to run it by before I have luck, or just I've run out of agents that I think will actually be able to be a good agent for my work. So there's gonna be a time where that runs out. So it's do or die for this. So, and then eventually, again, it'll just become an ebook, and then hopefully it'll get a little bit of traction there, but it won't exist in the traditionally, like the traditional publishing. So on a shelf at like Barnes and Noble or something like that, which is fine. I mean, we're in a new age, and it's allowing the current model with ebooks and traditional publishing. It allows smaller authors to get out there and find an audience. And you never know. There are some books out there that they didn't do traditional publishing. Now, I don't know if they would have tried for it or if they just decided instead that they wanted to do an ebook just so that they don't have to go through the process of applying to agents and everything like that. But and then there are some books that'll even pick up traction there, which is comforting. So even if I can't get the traditional publishing route, maybe there's something there. But that one, that particular rejection letter, it hurt a little bit. And it's been a long few weeks at work too. I'm new to the job, so actually trying to get commission is a bit difficult right now, just because I'm trying to actually build my book of business, which basically just means I'm trying to find more clients. So, and I'm up against, the way that it works is I have a quota that's based off of what the person in my position had last year at the same time. So for the month of November, which is when I'm recording this on the 18th, it'll be posted on the 19th. But for the month of November, I'm up against numbers that the guy that was in the position before me made last November. And he made that after he'd already been there for a few months. So he was able to build his book of business and have a large list of clients. So getting commission has been difficult because I'm restarting, but I'm up against quotas of someone that was not restarting at that moment. So work has been a little bit hard and a little bit stressful for that too. But what I will say about all the rejection that I've been going through with agents and work is every day I'm becoming a much more humble person, and respecting salespeople a bit more. I know that there's the stigma behind them where they're all massive douchebags or just complete assholes, or doing lines of cocaine off hookers or everything that you'll see in Wolf of Wall Street or something like that. But I mean, just having the courage to go out there and just put yourself in front of people and try to connect with them in a way that they feel that you would be a good salesperson for them, and that the product that you're offering is something that, if used correctly, could actually help them. Being able to do that, I have a huge respect for people that actually do try to take that on, because it's not a hard job. Like I said earlier, I'm quite an introvert, so the idea of just walking out or calling someone that I've never communicated with before, and just talking to them and seeing if they want to sit down, have a meeting, and just, stuff like that. I'm not going to go into my sales technique, but being able to do that on its own is very difficult. And then sometimes it really stings when I'm sitting at work and I'm refreshing my email, both work and personal, because I'm excited to see if I have any new rejection letters that I can overreact about. But it starts to build up sometimes. So some days I'll get, a bunch of rejections at work, or I'll get a bunch of rejections for agents, and I feel perfectly fine just because of the way that they're worded or the particular mood that I'm in that day, because I feel like I'm using my time really well, and I'm using it effectively to try to get where I want to, which is published author, and then just doing a bunch of other random projects like, having a podcast. But being able to do all of that stuff is it can be hard, but on some days it feels great because I know that I'm making progress by getting all the rejections, which is kind of a backwards way to think about it, but it's also, to me, currently the correct way to think about it, because I know how much work goes into everything. But on some days it feels fine because I know that I'm working well and I'm working towards what I want to do, and then on other days it feels absolutely miserable, and it feels like I couldn't be doing anything more incorrect or wrong or pathetically, because I haven't made any progress to the actual goal that I want. I haven't had anything published. I haven't had agents request my full manuscript. I haven't had these monster sales or anything that'll help me at work or anything like that. So depending on the day and depending on the mindset that I have on that given day, it can hurt and it can feel totally fine. It never feels great, because you're still getting rejected all the time, but it can feel okay, I guess. So, I don't know. I'm hoping that I haven't gone on too many different tangents. Maintaining a steady train of thought for this podcast is something that can be a bit difficult sometimes, or at least I feel like it's a bit difficult just because I have, it's ad-libbed. So, trying to stick to a script is just something that I'm really not good at, and I wouldn't have any fun with. Like, even if nobody listens to this thing, or it's still fun for me just because it's something different. So maintaining the ad lib is better for the organic production of the podcast, but I know that I can go on tangents and ramble sometimes, so I apologize if that happened. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the rejection that I've been going through, and really, I guess what I would say for people that are going through a lot of rejection at the same time is, and this is from someone that has not reached some level of success and has gone through a lot of rejection. This is someone that's currently going through a lot of rejection, is just think about all the work that you've put in to get rejected. I know that seems weird, but if you're applying for agents, if you're a salesperson, you've definitely done your research. If you're applying for agents, you've written a book or something similar. So congratulations just for that. But if you're getting rejections, it means you're doing the exact right thing. Not everybody's going to love your work. Chances are a lot of people are going to hate your work before they love your work. And at least that's the experience that I have. So if you don't get a lot of rejection letters and everybody's asking for your manuscript, then congratulations. You're currently a better writer than I am, and I hope to get to your level. But rejection means that you're doing something right, even when it feels like you're doing everything wrong. It's the thing that lets you know that you've put in a lot of work, and even if it's not paying off right now, as long as you maintain the work ethic and the timing, the amount of time that you're putting in and everything like that, it will pay off eventually. I'm not a strong believer in luck getting people to where they want to be. I'm a very strong believer in the amount of work and the amount of growth and experience that you're really trying to get is what does it. Luck doesn't just happen. You have to create it by putting in as much time as you're comfortable putting in. And some days it'll be 0 minutes, and other days it'll be like 6 hours. And that's, as long as you just keep putting in time, eventually the grind will end. But I'm not there yet. So, maybe 2 years down the line, you'll hear another podcast, which is just me going, holy shit, I can't do anything right because I haven't gotten anywhere. But again, it just means that I'm going through the process that every other successful person before me has had to go through. So good luck with whatever endeavors you're working on. I wish you the best. I'd love to hear about the successes that you've had. So just, I don't know, just leave a comment, leave a review. If you want to have more of a dialogue, I post a lot on my on my blog, acceptablemadness.com. I post shorts up there with little like blurbs beforehand. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the blog, the podcast, whether they're positive or negative. I'd just be interested to hear them. I handle a lot of rejection. I can handle a little bit more. So, I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Have a good one. And just like I didn't know how to start a podcast, I sure as hell don't know how to end one. So, bye.